Even in the 21st century, clean water is still a luxury for large parts of the world. It was recently estimated that 60% of the world's population lacks access to clean water for at least 1 month each year, and ingestion of contaminated water is responsible for millions of deaths annually. Clean water scarcity poses a serious threat to our species, and reducing the cost of water purification has the potential to be truly transformative. In our Capstone project, we chose to design a polymeric microfiltration membrane to purify water. The microfiltration regime has low operating pressure and is able to remove bacterial pathogens and other large particulates from water. While short of complete sterilization, the removal of bacteria provides a significant reduction in the risks of unclean water and significantly simplifies further purification. To ensure a complete removal of bacterial pathogens, our filter would require a 0.2 micron pore size. We decided to fabricate our membrane from a polymer instead of a ceramic material to minimize material and processing costs. Cellulose acetate, polylactic acid, or PLA, and polyvinylidene fluoride, or PVDF, were initially considered due to their high chemical stability and mechanical strength. However, we eventually settled on PLA due to its extremely low cost and biodegradability. PLA is an extremely common bioplastic. Our initial prototypes were created using PLA from a Blaze Pizza water cup. We settled on solution blow spinning as the technique for processing our PLA into filters. In our experimental setup, a volatile polymer solution is loaded into an airbrush. When the polymer solution is ejected from the tip of the brush, the liquid forms a thin strand known as the Taylor cone. At high gas flow rates, the solvent is completely evaporated at the tip of the cone, and nano-sized fibers are expelled. The diameter of these fibers is a function of polymer concentration, feed rate, and air pressure, and can be tuned experimentally. These fibers stack to rapidly form a non-woven mat on nearly any substrate. The mats have high porosity and an interconnected pore structure, both extremely favorable properties for filter membranes. To learn more about our system, we use the software tool ANSYS to simulate the generation of nanofibrous mats. From studying the resulting models, we found a direct relationship between the nanofiber diameter and the effective pore size of the filter, something that had also been observed in literature. Although we have not fit our computer model with our experimental data, our research suggests that mats composed of 100 to 300 nanometer fibers will form pores in the microfiltration regime. We then began to design our nanofibrous PLA filters in order to maximize performance. From literature, we found mathematical models to determine both the water permeability and maximum operating pressure of our filters. Unfortunately, our model suggested that if our non-woven mats were to have sufficient strength for the pressure range of microfiltration, it would not offer a reasonable water permeability. However, we realized that we could increase the strength of our filters by directly depositing the nanofibers on a mechanical supporting scaffold. The next step became the design of the support, a porous scaffold. To prevent confusion with the pores of the filter membrane itself, the pores of the scaffold will simply be referred to as holes. We found that as the size of the scaffold holes decreases, the porosity of the structure increases. However, because there must be some border between the holes of the scaffold, eventually the scaffold becomes dominated by this border. This results in a sharp decrease in scaffold porosity. The product of the two values of pressure and water permeability gives the flux of the filter our primary performance metric. This equation suggests that the flux of our supported filter would be directly proportional to the porosity of the scaffold divided by the radius of the scaffold's hole. We plotted this metric over a range of hole sizes, assuming that any scaffold would require at least 0.5 millimeters between holes due to processing constraints. This metric had a clear maximum when the radius of the holes in scaffold was 0.255 millimeters. Once the hole size of the scaffold was determined, the thickness required to provide sufficient strength could be calculated. Our model predicts that a 20 micron thick nanofibrous mat should allow us to operate at the desired pressures and would offer exceptional performance. After the design phase, we began the prototyping process for our filter. In the initial round of prototyping, mats were deposited using 5 weight % PLA in THF. We characterized the mats using a scanning electron microscope and confirmed a nanofiber morphology with diameters ranging from 200 to 400 nanometers. Dynamic mechanical analysis, or DMA, was used to characterize the mechanical properties of the non-woven mats, and this data was used to improve the accuracy of our models. In our most recent work, we have begun to characterize the filtration properties of our membranes. We used optical measurements to determine the turbidity of dirty water before and after filtration. The dirty water was approximately 1,300 times more turbid than deionized water, while the filtered sample was merely twice as turbid. This initial test appears quite promising, but further quantitative testing is required. Particularly important is characterization of our mats using capillary flow pyrometry. While literature has shown that mats composed of 100 to 300 nanometer fibers form submicron pores, quantification of the actual pore size of our system is very important. It is possible that further tuning of our deposition procedure will be required in order to reach the desired 0.2 micron pore size. However, our earliest prototyping suggests that our design does have promise and that the future of water looks clear.